Hello everyone, I'm Santiago and today I'm gonna be testing Uncharted Legacy of Thieves collection on the Steam Deck. So, okay, Uncharted 4 and Lost Legacy on the Steam Deck. We're going to be trying two configurations, one targeting 40 and the other one targeting 30 with better visuals. I'll first show you the 40 FPS configuration, which I think is pretty interesting and pushes the deck to its absolute limits. So, we're on 800p, but using balanced FSR2, so it's actually 470p, which is not that bad considering the size of the screen. You can notice a lower pixel count, but you can play with the sharpness at the very least. This FPS lock to 30 is terrible. Use the one from the Steam Deck's system, at least in my opinion in this case. Then on the settings, basically medium to low, medium textures, everything else on low. And in audio, this is a new feature. In compatibility, make sure that the latency is on high, so it uses less CPU. And we enable the FPS counter. So what I'm going to show you is a few battles. Sorry about the aim right away. I tell you, I suck with a controller in shooters. And the idea here is to target 40 FPS, so the refresher of the Steam Deck at 40 Hz. Lock the game to 40 and you should be good to go. Let me see if allow tearing is on. If you have stuttering, consider disabling this. In this case I'm going to. I don't know why it helped me with stutter when the frame rate is unlocked. Oh my god, not a single shot. And I'm choosing this one because of the amount of enemies, the amount of... What's the name of this? The amount of... particles. Yeah, the volumetrics. So I've been dropping frames on my PC on this part. It's close to the end, I'm not going to spoil anything for you guys. But it has more stuff on screen, let's leave it at that. I finished the game multiple times already. And I basically know all the levels, and this one is one of the few that has some issues. As you can see, we're into the 40s FPS range pretty often. The only places where I dropped below 30 was in more CPU-bound environments, such as the level when you're chasing some trucks and you can jump from one truck to the other. Great level, but due to the amount of movement across the map, you get CPU-bound. Here we go. So yeah, if you don't mind sacrificing the ambient occlusion and the screen space reflections, this is a great way to play the game in my opinion, very smooth. As you can see here, when I go to the water it drops into the upper 30s, but it fixes itself very quickly. It really depends on what's going on screen. Here I'm actually CPU bound, because my GPU clock is not at 1600 MHz. But by locking the frame rate to 40, it should help the CPU and GPU not being 100% utilized all the time, like it's being done here. So keep that in mind. I'm not locking it to 40 because, you know, Steam Deck's the Steam Deck FPS counter when connected to the capture card doesn't work properly. So yeah, just lock it to 40 and enjoy the smoothness in this game. Okay, another one. Let me use, now that I unlocked it, I unlocked using any weapon. So let's use an RPG. Still alive. Of course he's still alive. That's absolute BS. So yeah, this is one of the demanding parts. That's what I'm trying to say. There's vegetation, there's volumetrics, there's a good amount of enemies, there's water, some of it down there, but no screen space reflections. And I'm using a rocket launcher. So yeah, let's jump into the next action sequence. Okay, so now I'm loading the chase sequence, the one that is super famous because it was done on a trailer, multiple trailers. I love this sequence, honestly. And well, it's pretty CPU bound in this part because we're moving very fast. So it's loading lots of assets. And I'm playing on easy, so I can aim automatically with a controller. because it's pretty chaotic. Which is kind of the point, but still. Here, as you can see, it drops frames, but as soon as I get away from the water, it improves, which is always good to see. And again, lock it to 40, so the CPU is not working extra hard for no reason. But as you can see, pretty good. But we're CPU limited, because the GPU clock doesn't get anywhere close to 1200 MHz, it's at 1000, 900 to 1000, and that's because the CPU is the limiting factor. The CPU and GPU need to share that 15 watt TDP, so when the CPU is doing a lot of work, the GPU won't be used at its maximum potential, which is a shame really. But hey, it's some sections like this one. So some drops into the mid-30s every once in a while, but otherwise you should be good to go. Smooth 40 FPS. Anyway. And I killed everyone. Yeah, I need to get into that car. Could you please die? Thank you. Okay. So again, one of my favorite sequences, pretty aggressive on the GPU and CPU, especially the CPU, because look at all this stuff on screen. And by all this stuff I mean a good amount of NPCs, a good amount of geometry being drawn very quickly. So yep, there you go. Let's jump into the next one, shall we? And finally, this area is another problematic one. It's closer, yeah, more than halfway through the game. So no spoilers, only out of context level. These maps are much bigger. That's why we're CPU bound on here. Let me try something super quick. Changing the core clock of the GPU to 1600. As you can see now, we're CPU limited. So that, even if I try 1200, still not enough to reach 40s. So here we're CPU limited, because of the amount of stuff on screen, unfortunately. More grass, bigger city. So as soon as you get closer to here, the frame rate will be closer to 40. Because there's less of the map shown on screen. So again, I'm showing you the worst case scenarios that I could find. I've been playing this game for a while on my computer. And I played on the Steam Deck, but at 30 frames. Before the latest patches, there's been a few patches. I was unable to get anywhere close to 40, so it's an improvement. I think it's due to the audio option that allows us to basically make the latency higher, so the CPU is doing less work on the audio side, because there's a lot of echoing going on with the audio. But I honestly don't notice much of a difference. I'm not an audiophile myself, so yeah. So you can get 40s in a big part of the game, but there's some levels like the ones I showed you here that, well, if you see the entire map, you drop into the 30s because CPU limitation. So let's swap to the 30 FPS configuration. One quick thing I forgot to mention, this open levels very close to the beginning. As you can see, it's not so bad. But it's less complex than when I showed you that is closer to the end of the game. Let's see once I start attacking. I know, easy mode, I know. Don't judge me. As you can see, it's fine. So most of the game you should be into the 40s, as long as you lock it to 40 Hz on the Steam Deck screen and lock it to 40 FPS. So yeah, let's now do the 30 frames configuration. Okay, now time for the quality preset, as I would call it, locked to 30 frames per second. You'll be surprised to see that we're using native resolution, 800p, no FSR, nothing like that. I do not recommend the lock frames to 30 from the game. I mean, it works, but I don't feel that the frame times are super consistent. But it'll be less latency. Also, I'll add some motion blur because we're at 30 frames. I know. You can disable it if you want to. It'll give you a few extra frames. Then medium textures and the rest on high, and model quality on enhanced. If you need more frames, you can lower shadows as well. But I'll keep it like this, and let's see what happens. So we open the menu. Oh, and the audio is still on high, the latency. So we help the CPU not be hammered by the game. So again, in this level, mostly GPU bound. So let's lock the frame rate to 30 for more consistency. So let's help the hardware do its job. We're going to lock it to 30 like this and allow tearing for less latency. If you see stutters with this configuration, consider turning this off. We'll see what happens. And as you can see, we're locked to, well, we're dead, but we're locked to 30 frames. Let's see how it goes.
Gotta find a way to the beach.
I know, auto aim, playing like a noob. That's fine. Let me put unlimited ammo as well. If we're doing it properly. Infinite ammo. I finished the game, I can do whatever I want. I'm almost finished with my crushing run, but on mouse and keyboard. And see, despite the enemies destroying me, it's fine. Again, this level, the good thing about it is closer to the end, so there's not lots of dialogue. But it has a good amount of volumetrics. It has water. It has a good amount of enemies. So there's stuff going on. And it's still locked to 30. Again, this part is very GPU limited. So keep that in mind. Usually our issue at the 40 Hz configuration was the CPU. Here the GPU is doing its job. Let's do an explosion. And great. But as you can see, it's basically 30, and the GPU clock is between 1200 MHz and 1500 MHz. Maximum is 1600, so we're good. So the 30 FPS cap is doing its job, basically. Let's do the same as before. On bonus, we got for the rocket launcher for effects on screen. Working properly, that's great. But the auto aim is bothering me. I think I'll turn it off. So as you can see in this GPU bound part, completely fine. And it's on high settings at native resolution. That's insane. It blows my mind that it can do that. I played this on a PlayStation 4, of course it's 1080p on PS4, but still. We have the screen space reflections, we got all the bells and whistles. The only drawback is that we're having textures on medium, but they still look good. I would even push it to high, but we're doing a benchmark here, so try high textures if you want to. Might work properly. Haven't tried it yet. I think it looks good like this. Okay, we're now loading into again the convoy section that was super CPU bound when targeting 40 FPS. Let's see it here, how the GPU behaves. Okay. We seem to be fine so far. Yeah. It's basically locked 30 now. Awesome. So definitely this section is CPU intensive. At least for the Steam Deck. Oh god. Let's continue. Okay, neat. Yeah, it's 30 frames per second, and we have the extended draw distance option, high settings, medium textures. There we drop a few frames with the explosion, then we're back into the game just fine. Thanks to the driver for letting me back in the back of the truck. So as you can see, we're good in this level. Locked 30s. Almost perfect. And I say almost because sometimes it likes to drop. But into the upper 20s. It's completely fine. Mostly the issue are effects. When a car explodes or something. Let's see, we're on 80 resolution, high settings, medium textures, enhanced model quality. I think those patches really did the game justice. Still, the port is pretty basic, but still. To be playing this at this quality of the Steam Deck blows my mind. Oh god, I'm so dead. Okay, I forgot that I'm playing on easy. In crushing, you get 2 shots and you're dead. Alright, so the level, as you can see, this one, completely fine. Pretty good. So I think it's time to jump into the next one. I think you saw enough of this part. It works great. Okay, we're now into the section that had lots of trouble maintaining 40s because CPU limitations. There's lots of geometry in this part. Again, more than halfway through the game. So avoid, just out of context. Let's just shoot everyone. And as you can see here, it drops some frames. But still, upper 20s. It's not like it's dropping into the 25 FPS range.
Sorry, little brother.
Yeah, it's fine. Look at this. That's insane. I'm still blown away that a portable machine is playing it like this. When I played it on PS4, I would have never imagined that I could play this on a portable PC. At 30 frames, on high settings, with medium textures. And basically 800p, that is the native resolution. It's not 1080p like PS4, but again, portable machine, 7-inch screen, looks super sharp. So yeah, conclusion. Personally, while the 40 FPS configuration is nice, I really like the smoothness that it brings to the table. The 30 FPS configuration is so much more consistent. It's hard to recommend the 40 FPS one, especially in levels like this one that are CPU demanding. I mean, many levels hold 40s when you go there, and the game still looks good. Softer because of FSR2 unbalanced, and well, no ambient occlusion, no screen space reflections, but you can get the big majority of the game can be into the 40s, except in areas like these. But man, it's such a good 30 FPS lock that it's hard to recommend the sometimes 40 FPS dropping configuration. I mean, this just looks so much sharper, it's ridiculous. It's all up to you, of course. I'm just showing you the two phases of it. Personally, I like to play it like this because better visuals, way sharper, and well, it stays at 30 basically across the board. It drops here and there in some parts with lots of explosions, but otherwise it's solid.
Grab any ammo you can. That won't be the last of them.
Yeah, completely solid.
For the treasure.
Such a good 30 FPS cap. It's kind of crazy how consistent it is. The main issue again is the CPU. If we had a faster CPU, the 40 FPS cap should be easily doable with the settings that I provided. But unfortunately, that's not reality. So yeah, thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did replaying Uncharted 4. I love the game. I wish there was more action into it, but that's not the case. So I'll see ya next time. Bye guys. Thanks for watching.